What is up, Edison duelists? This is Dionysus, aka Young Puds, coming at you guys today with some more shameless, hype beast, Gigavise content. And what I have for you today is actually very exciting. I am going to reveal a fundamental truth of Yu-Gi-Oh!, which unfortunately it seems many players are not aware of. And this is simply put, stun decks are not good. The best deck in any format is always going to be the deck that does the most, that has the highest ceiling. Now, as long as these decks exist, because of the nature of the game, people are going to try and counter them with these really degenerate, low ceiling stun strategies that are just going to try and maximize floodgates and lock your opponent out of the game. And now, I definitely was a big believer in strategies like this. I loved playing Macro Rabbit back in the day. I loved playing Chain Beat back in the day, with Wind Up Rabbit and Evil Swarm Thunderbird. I thought those cards were fantastic. I felt invincible setting up a bunch of floodgates. But the problem with relying on a strategy like that is inevitably your opponent is going to be able to find an out. And if your deck can't close out games quickly with a powerful sequence, a powerful combo, a powerful line, you're just going to be at the mercy of these stronger decks. Now, there are definitely some stun strategies that you're going to see floating around Edison Format. So what I have for you today is a series of replays where I'm using Gigavise to dismantle these stun strategies. And I hope this really highlights to you that stun is just always going to be an inferior concept in Yu-Gi-Oh! If you like playing stun, if this is the kind of gameplay you enjoy, by all means play it. But I hope you can come to understand by the end of this video that stun, hey, it just ain't it, Chief. So let's jump into our first game. This is against AVTO Matt. And this was actually a funny game. I remember I was watching some Edison in the, just in the watch section of Dueling Book, and I saw this guy playing Pac-Man, which, if you're not aware, is an acronym. It stands for Passive Aggressive Camels Munch All Noobs, or maybe Pure Advantage Camels, depends on what you want to call it, which is a very cool, very funny kind of slow stun deck. I think it might be a little more viable in GOATs than anywhere else, but even there I don't think it's that good because, again, it is just operating on this low ceiling axis that in a game like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just not very effective. So I'm watching this Pac-Man player play and I was like, oh, that's funny. And I had such a good time watching the duel. Once it ended, I said, well, let me just jump into queue. I'll play one game before bed. Just a quick match, and wouldn't you know it, I queue right into Pac-Man. So let's get started with this game. Let's see how I draw. It is going to be like an okay kind of hand. I see the Sangan, which makes me feel good. I see the Gores, but it's going to be Pac-Man. So Gores isn't really going to help. Lightning Vortex isn't going to help. The Lone Fire, the Copy Plant, the Mind Control, I might be able to do something with that. So we'll see here. He is just going to run out that Deslakuta and swing right into our Sangan. Unfortunately, it's just going to bounce off doing nothing. And then he does have the Black Garden, the Starlight Road, the Scrap Iron Scarecrow, the Gravity Bind, and the Level Limit. So he is trying to put up a house against us to really, really shut us down. Now, we're going to have the Mind Control for the Deslakuta, and that is going to be really cute. It's going to let us draw a card. And fortunately for us, we do draw Giant Trunade, which is going to get right around that Starlight Road. Heavy Storm wouldn't have done it, but Trunade absolutely does. And then we are going to normal summon our Copy Plant and Synchro 7 for a Power Tool Dragon, which is going to be able to get us... the Sangan gets you the Lone Fire Blossom, and then the Power Tool Dragon gets us the Supervise. So we definitely have a lot of gas in our hand. He's going to be able to set everything up again, but hopefully we are going to be able to find a way out of this. The Starlight Road is going to prevent us from making Black Rose Dragon, but we'll see if perhaps we can get around that. So he's going to get these tokens going from Black Garden. Our monster is going to be stuck in defense position. And first, we are going to go for Stardust Dragon. I figure in this situation that he is going to have something like Starlight Road, the way he just set so much. And I'm expecting a Starlight Road in a deck like this. They're really needing cards like that to keep their strategy alive, keep it afloat. So I'm not just going to recklessly go into Black Rose. I'm going to make a Stardust Dragon first. I'm guessing he's not going to be able to out it. Stardust could negate that Swarm of Scarabs. So that's the other thing. Against these low ceiling stun decks, if you were playing a fast, high octane combo deck, you don't have to go all in and just try and win on one turn. You can try and slowly kind of steamroll and develop your board, get it stronger and stronger. And you have the time to do that because their deck is so very low to the ground. And right here we see exactly that. I'm going to be able to fire the Black Rose. It doesn't matter that he has the Starlight Road because we have our own Stardust to negate the Starlight Road. So he is going to scoop, facing that massive advantage loss, and pass it back to us. So let's see how we're able to draw in the second game. We'll be going second this time. He is going to draw another quite a intimidating hand. He has the Terraforming going for Black Garden, and then he is going to set a million traps. We do have our Nettles that we set to get around Black Garden. If you set a monster and then flip summon it, you're not going to have to worry about Black Garden there. And he has the Scrap Iron Scarecrow for defense, so we are just going to set a Dandelion and pass it back to our opponent. He's going to flip summon his Deslicuta to start generating some advantage, and he is playing the Stealth Bird build. I think this version of the deck is perfectly fine. You're just really trying to slow down the game and then flip Stealth Bird 8 times and then, hey, you win. So, it's clear what he's trying to do, but it's such a slow strategy. It gives us so much time to find our big outs, to find our big sweepers. I know in that last game, I drew Trunade right away, but the thing is, these decks, they're not going to be winning anytime soon. So you definitely have time to find your outs, which is, that's another problem. It's not like there's only one out, and then if you Dark Bribe it, you win. These decks have a whole lot of outs to all these cards. So he is going to Dark Bribe, which does give us another card to draw. I think Dark Bribe is it's an interesting card. A lot of beginners see it and they're like, oh, I'll just negate their best card. Who cares if they draw a card? And then, the more you play with it, you're like, oh no, I can't give my opponent any cards ever. That's such a terrible thing to do. And then after a little more experience, you say, well, hey, maybe if I'm just negating their best card, I don't care what they're drawing. So definitely an interesting card. Interesting to see where people fall. Speaking of interesting cards, at this point I did have the one copy of Nobleman of Crossout in my side deck, so I was very happy to be able to side this in against a deck like Pac-Man. So we are going to take out the Deslicuta, which is going to kind of stall out his advantage generation, but still we are just kind of drawing and waiting, trying to build up resources. We're going to put a Gigaplant on the field. Gigaplant is going to come out stronger than the Black Garden tokens. And we are also going to have a Dandelion as well. And now we have 2 Supervises. We have the 1-for-1, we have the DDR, we have a Hidden Armory. So I'm thinking that if we can Foolish Burial the Lone Fire and then get something going with Gigaplant, maybe we can make a Mistworm or even go into a Black Rose Dragon to try and close out the game. And we are going to do just that. We do have our second Supervise. He had to set that Dark Bribe from hand. And we are going to be able to go right into a Copy Plant. And that is going to run into Needle Sealing. And at this point, I have realized that I had overextended. In that game, I think it might have been worth just waiting a little longer, trying to find Trunade. I wasn't in immediate danger. The Stealth Bird definitely put me on a clock, but I think I had a few more turns that I could have tried to last him out. Anyways, this game, we are seeing a handful of monsters, which is not really a welcome sight. The 2 Lone Fire is nice, but to be honest with you folks, I would really like to establish a little bit more of a board and get going faster. He's going to Terraforming for that Black Garden. It looks like he's not siding Zombie World. Honestly, Zombie World here would present a really, really big problem for us. So I am glad for that. But here we see he's going to put up the level limit. He has the Solemn Judgment. He has a Dust Tornado, so I'm sure he feels very safe. We do draw into the Trunade, which we can, of course, fire to waste the Solemn Judgment. And then we're just going to be able to normal summon the Gigaplant. And I see that the Judgment is gone, so I'm thinking now is going to be a good time to go ahead and try and Black Rose. If it can go through, he doesn't have a Judgment to stop it, so maybe he doesn't have the Starlight Road. It's probably something else. Usually, if you can get through one of the kind of anti-heavy storm things, then you can get through another. There's not going to be anything else to stop you, and indeed that is the case. He is going to lose all of his cards to Black Rose Dragon, and he is just going to scoop it up. So that's the other thing with these stun decks, is if you're kind of able to prevent them from getting rolling, if they're not able to start generating advantage, and you simplify a game state down on them, your cards are all better than theirs. Your cards are all more impactful. So if you're able to get down to a really narrow, simplified game state, you're just going to be better off. They thrive when both players have lots of cards, because then they have lots of options to keep shutting you out of the game. So let's move on to the next replay. This one is going to be against a little more popular of a stun deck. This is against like the hero stun. But you see, he's also on Starlight Road. He's on, bad cards like Dimensional Prison. And we are going to open just fantastic here. We're going to hit an Armory, and we're able to get the Lone Fire Blossom, which is even better. I was perfectly content Foolish Burying it, but, getting it faster like this, hey, that's just great. So we're going to fire the second hidden Armory. So now we have Mark, we have DDR, we already have the Lone Fire in grave, and we have 2 Supervises. So we are feeling fantastic in this position. He's going to draw into a second Dimensional Prison. He'll Heavy Storm our Raigeki Break, but that's not the end of the world. Rhoda for Stratos, get Ocean, and then it looks like he is going to set 4. So it never feels good when your opponent has 4 set and you don't have a sweeper, but when you have this many extenders like we do right now, especially drawing into that Super Solar Nutrient, so the Foolish Burial is going to be able to get us started, I'm thinking, all right, let's just play into it. When they have that many cards set, you got to keep in mind, okay, one of these cards is going to be something to stop Heavy Storm. And if it's Starlight Road, then we don't care about that because we're just going to play through it. It's not going to interrupt our combo. And then at least one of those cards is going to be a Battle Trap. And those are the easiest cards in the world to play around. So really, he only has 2 points of interaction to stop us, and both of them have to be relevant. And in this case, it looks like he actually has 2 Battle Traps and the Starlight Road set. So this looks really scary. It's 4 sets. But sometimes it is really correct. If you have a hand like this with lots of extenders, you can just go right ahead and play into it. So he is going to go ahead and fire his Book of Moon, which again, folks, that is his only relevant piece of interaction. And he is going to set that Gigaplant, and we just do not care. We're going to banish the Lone Fire to steal his Stratos, and then we're going to bring back the Lone Fire, use its effect, get a Copy Plant, and then Copy Plant is going to copy Lone Fire, and we are going to get a Power Tool Dragon to continue the advantage train rolling. And now, interestingly enough, it looks like we didn't use our normal summon here, so I think it was probably actually correct to go into a Gigaplant, but I was probably concerned about his back row, and I wanted to say, okay, if we can stick a Power Tool, that's going to definitely give us a Synchro to get rid of the Stratos, and it's going to give us more advantage to play further into the game. He's also under a lot of pressure. I know all he has is the Ocean, and he absolutely must clear both our Power Tool Dragon and that Lone Fire Blossom, as well as the Gigaplant. He's going to be able to do all that with those 2 DE prisons, but we have a DDR in hand. And that Lone Fire Blossom is looking like a fantastic target, especially when he draws Honest, which is not really going to pair very well with the Ocean. So he'll kill our Gigaplant. And I know that this is not really a back row to fear because he set it alongside these 3 other real traps. So this is probably going to be a Starlight Road. I think that's a pretty easy read to make. If it was a Judgment, I think he would have used the Judgment to interrupt our plays earlier instead of just holding it. So I am confident that is a Starlight Road. So I'm going to fearlessly DDR for our Lone Fire Blossom, and then Lone Fire Blossom is going to get us Gigaplant. Gigaplant is going to get us Lone Fire, and he is going to scoop it up before we can even summon our Titanial. So we're going to go into game 2. He is going to draw another Stratos to start the game. He's going to use that before he commits the Thunder King. He's going to set his 3 traps, which if you think about that, that is 2 D prisons and a Starlight Road. That is nothing. We do not care. And we are going to be blatantly disrespecting him. He is going to fire that DD Crow on our Lone Fire Blossom. I had the Copy Plant in hand, and I had the Dandelion in hand. So since I had something to summon off of Gigaplant, I was comfortable just doing the 1 Lone Fire Blossom. That way, if I can get to Super Solar Nutrient, it's still going to be live off of those Dandy tokens. And it is going to bait a DD Crow, which is going to be very live with the DDR. So we're just going to summon that copy plant from hand, and we are going to go right ahead and make a Power Tool Dragon. Bring back the Gigaplant with Supervise, fire Power Tools effect, and that is going to reveal 2 equips and a Mark of the Rose, and he is just going to scoop on the spot. I think he realizes that he's out of the game. We were definitely having a lot of options there. We can DDR for the Lone Fire Blossom to get it in rotation again, Supervise on the Gigaplant so we could make another Synchro Summon, like a Stardust Dragon. It seemed like, if he had Bottomless, if he had Torrential, if he had Summon Stops, he would have fired them already. So my read on this back row situation is lots of Battle Traps and then like a Starlight Road, which of course is exactly the case, and that is a field that is going to do nothing against Titanial Stardust. So that is Hero Beat Stun. Let's move on. This is a more recent game that I played against user Dion Brat. And Dion Brat is a fantastic duelist. I run into him a couple times, and he also recognized me from the channel. So if you're watching this, bro, good duel. It's always cool to run into you guys that recognize me from the channel. I really also just want to take the time to thank everyone that watches every day. I have a lot of fun making these videos. I hope you guys enjoy them. I hope you guys are getting a lot out of them. I'm definitely getting a lot out of making them. And the support that I've gotten on the channel in these past 2 weeks has just been fantastic. And it really encourages me to just keep making this kind of shameless hype beast Gigavise content. So speaking of shameless, we are just going to open right into a powerful board with Foolish Burial, into Super Solar, into Lone Fire with Supervise, which means we are retaining our normal summons so we can go for that very, very aggressive Stardust Titanial opening board. It always feels good. Normally, I'm not liking to leave a Lone Fire in defense position like this because that is just asking for Shura to give us trouble, but we do have the Threatening Roar, so I am feeling very, very safe. Now, our opponent has opened a fantastic hand if he was going first, but unfortunately he's not. He does have that Eradicator Epidemic Virus, which is a little scary. That is definitely a card that is powerful against Gigavise, and if your deck can support it, you should absolutely have it in your sideboard going into this plant meta. Anyways, he is going to set the Fossil Dyna here, and now he is going to pass it to us. He has a big field full of traps, but with that Stardust Dragon on board, I am just not feeling too scared, folks. In fact, I'm feeling pretty good. So first we're going to fire the Lone Fire Blossom. This is us testing for Torrential Tribute. If he had the Torrential, we'd have the Stardust to negate it, but he is going to let it through. So I am always going to be cautious in times like this. I'm going to attack first with the Stardust, and he does have Mirror Force, so I will be using Stardust Dragon to negate the Mirror Force. And then I am just going to pass. There is no reason to attack. When I'm seeing a set like this into all these monsters, it could be a Raikou, it could be a Game 1 Fossil Dyna, so you just have to play around that. And like in that Pac-Man match that I showed earlier, against these slow stun decks, you don't have to go all in. The stun deck wants you to go all in and then get punished and blown out by their traps. But if you're just playing very conservatively, you're just slowly amassing advantage, amassing a board that's very difficult to break, you're going to be in a very good position. And he's drawing Deck Devastation Virus. I don't see any darks. Beast King Barbaros, that looks like an Earth to me, bro. Fossil Dyna, that's another Earth. So these viruses that he have are just, they're just dead. The Solemn Judgment, definitely a threatening card. Bottomless, we have Stardust to answer that. So we are going to normal summon Gigaplant and fire its effect. Bring out a Lone Fire Blossom. I'm going to just hold that Lone Fire Blossom there. If I want to go into a Copy Plant, I can. If I want to go into something else, I can. It's also just going to sit there and be a fine target for Titanial to tribute. And it also is going to present 8,000 points of damage if that Stardust attack is effectively going to get rid of the set monster. So he is going to, it looks like I was playing a little fast, and he actually wants to Bottomless the Gigaplant, and we will negate that with Stardust, and then again, we're just going to go right to the end phase. There is no reason for us to attack into something so punishing when we have a strong board like this without the Stardust. We really are risking a Fossil Dyna, and of course it is a Fossil Dyna. I'm also definitely getting a read that it's a Fossil Dyna. You know, the fact that he's like firing a Mirror Force, even though I just know, you know, he knows it's going to be negated, that tells me that whatever this is something that he really wants to get through. So whether it's a Fossil Dyna, a Snowman Eater, anything at all, I want my Stardust around to negate it. I don't want to give him the opportunity. He does draw into the Fusilier Dragon, so his Eradicator is live, which is a little unfortunate from us because we did draw into that giant Trunade, but I am feeling like I have a perfectly safe time here to just go ahead and attack. He's going to fire that Eradicator, which is going to clear all the spells from our hand, but that is perfectly fine. And now we are going to see that our patience and our discipline has been rewarded. We didn't swing recklessly into that Fossil Dyna, and we had the Stardust to negate it, and now we have 8,000 points of damage to swing in for game. So that is going to be GG Game 1. Let's see how we handle Game 2. So our opponent is going to start on the draw. Always a little scary into these stun decks. And he looks like this deck is kind of doing a rock thing. He has the Quakimeru Guardian, which is just a strictly better Doom Caliber Knight. And then he is going to set 2 traps, a Skill Drain and a Torrential, and show us Morphing Jar. Skill Drain is fantastic here. He can still use Quakimeru under Skill Drain to negate something like Lone Fire that I could use under Skill Drain. So definitely posing a problem for us. We're opening a little slow. First, we're going to hit an Armory, see if we can mill something good. We do mill that Chalice. Chalice is a card that, you know, folks, I'm not so sure if it's good. I'm testing it because I think it has applications against, like, Fossil Dyna. You can play around Fossil Dyna without having to make Stardust, which is good. You can also, if you're using it to negate, like, a Vanity's Fiend or perhaps a Christia, you can leave their monster face up, so then you can steal it with Mark of the Rose to help push for games. So I think, you know, Chalice might have some applications. It's also good against Dark Dust Spirit and Frogs, so definitely something worth testing. I think you guys should consider it, give it a try. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Anyways, we've added that DDR to our hand, and we are going to Gold Sark for the Lone Fire, but since I have such a powerful hand and I can tell I'm up against such a slow deck, I'm feeling like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and wait. I don't want to commit right now. I don't have a good answer to the Quakimeru Guardian, so there's no point in DDRing for that Lone Fire right away. I need to find an answer first. So he is going to set a card and then set the rest of his hand. I know that is a Morphing Jar because he did reveal it off of Quakimeru Guardian, and then he is actually just going to let that Quakimeru Guardian go without a rock to reveal because he just wants to get that advantage. He saw that I didn't have a sweeper into his 3 sets before, so he feels like I don't. But of course, we were holding the Trunade. So we are going to put all those traps back in his hand, which is just setting us up to, you know, he's not going to get any advantage off of Morphing Jar. And I am racing to empty my hand. I don't think I have the OTK this turn, but I am going to definitely be able to empty my hand, get everything out of the way, and draw a whole bunch of cards off of Morphing Jar, and then I'm going to be very far ahead. So I am going to Synchro Summon here for a Power Tool Dragon. Supervise is going to bring back Gigaplant, and we are going to reveal 2 Supervises and the DDR. And I still have my normal summon available because I did get that Lone Fire Blossom off of DDR. And I think if I get the DDR there, which of course I won't because 66% rounds up to 100%, I could just make the Black Rose right away and then DDR back whatever I banish. Instead, we are going to get the Supervise, so this is going to be even better. Now we are threatening game. We're going to make the Power Tool Dragon, and we are going to Supervise to get Gigaplant back and reveal a Supervise, a DDR, and a Mark of the Rose. We are just looking to not hit the Mark of the Rose here, and of course we do not, so we are going to now hit an Armory to get back that Supervise. We don't need our normal summon anymore. I'm content spending it to get back the Supervise because this is looking like a guaranteed game shot. I know that he doesn't have anything to stop me in his hand. And I'm not expecting a stun deck like this to be playing Gores or Battle Fader. So we are going to set the rest of our hand, and then we are going to flip up his Morphing Jar, and he is going to scoop on the spot. I did actually go ahead and let myself see what 5 cards I would have drawn, just for curiosity, but the Morphing Jar is going to be in attack position, and we have 8,000 damage on board already. So that is GG. If I needed to do a little more, I could have used DDR to bring back the Lone Fire Blossom. Couldn't have gotten Titanial here, but I could hit an Armory for a Supervise to get Titanial from hand off of Gigaplant. So that was kind of this rock stun anti-meta strategy. Here we have another matchup against our friend AVTO Mat 1 from the first game. It looks like we are playing a suboptimal list that includes Reckless Greed, and he is playing a suboptimal list that is trying to burn us while also playing these kind of Pac-Man flip control monsters. So he is a big fan of Black Garden. He is going to Terraforming right into that Black Garden, set the Golem Sentry, set the Scrap Iron Scarecrow, set a Ceasefire, and hold the level limit and the Panda in his hand. We are going to draw and fire the Gold Sarcophagus to find Giant Trunade. All I really need is another plant. I can tell I'm up against some sort of slow stun deck, so I just want the Giant Trunade to get his back row into his hand, and then I can assemble a push once I'm ready. Giant Trunade is kind of the one card of the deck, and there's lots of other cards that I can draw to assemble a push. So we're going to draw a Dandelion for turn, and then we are going to pass it back to our opponent. He'll flip summon the Panda to get under Black Garden, and then attack directly. I think Panda Burn is a fantastic deck in Goats. I think it's an interesting concept. You know, I see what he's trying to do, fill up my board with Black Garden tokens and make Panda huge, but ultimately I just don't think it's that great. He is going to activate the level limit. He does have a Dark Bribe, so he's not so afraid of Heavy Storm. And we are going to draw into the second Reckless Greed, which of course just feels fantastic. I'm now going to feel comfortable using the first one. I will draw some cards, and this looks like enough for me to try and go off. So I fire the Trunade. He is going to stop us and give us yet another card to draw. And here I'm going to think for a little bit, and then I'm going to decide to fire the Raigeki Break just to knock out that set card. In case he stops me, I want to have the advantage going. We're going to get our Dandy tokens in the mix, and now I am going to mark the Rose to get that Panda out of here. I'm going to normal summon the Nettles, and I am thinking that this is a great time to go for Black Rose Dragon. He has his whole hand, everything is committed on the field. It looked like Dark Bribe was his defense for a sweeper, so I'm thinking there is no Starlight Road to worry about, there is no Solemn Judgment. And I'm just going to go right ahead and try and Black Rose Dragon. If this goes through, he's going to have no cards, and I'm going to have 1,000,000 cards, and he knows that, and will scoop it back to us. So we are going to go into game 2. This time he has the Iron Wall sided in, likely, to stop Mark of the Rose from being live. That's going to hurt. As you can see, we do have a Mark of the Rose in our hand already. And we are just going to start things off with a Hidden Armory into Supervise. You see I am still on Chalice at this time. The Reckless Greeds are definitely something I would cut. Like I said, the Chalice is something that I'm still considering, and I would appreciate your feedback on. He is going to activate Terraforming to get Ancient Forest, which is an interesting field spell. I'd really like to see Zombie World from him. That would definitely be a much bigger problem for us. But it looks like he's not on it. We are going to set our one copy plant if it survives, which against a deck like this, I think there's a fair chance that it will. But unfortunately, he does have the knock ready for us, assuming that knock is pairing really well with Black Garden, because we're going to be trying to set our monsters to get under its attack, and knock is going to be an excellent punish for that. So I think there's some smart and interesting deck building here. But ultimately, you know, it's still just this low ceiling kind of stun strategy, which is just not good enough to compete. It's not good enough to hack it. So we are going to DDR for a copy plant. It'll give him a Black Garden token, but hey, that's fine with us. We'll tribute the copy plant to get our Gigaplant on the field. Don't really care that its attack is going to be halved. He does have the Dark Bribe, which is going to shut down our supervise. That doesn't feel good, but since we have fertilizer, hidden armory, we can still try and black rose again on our next turn. He'll flip up the stealth bird to hit us for 1,000 points of damage, but he doesn't have anything with enough attack to swing over the gigaplant, so he is just going to put all of his tokens into defense position, wall up with that marshmallow, and hope that he can survive. Unfortunately for him, we do have a way into another supervise, so we are going to just hit an armory, get back that supervise, and bring out the copy plant, and sink row for a black rose dragon. And he has no answer for the black rose, so once again he is going to scoop it up. We didn't have game on that turn, but we definitely had a lot. So once again, we've just patiently waited against these stun decks until we had a big blowout play that we are sure we could push through. We push it through, and then we win the game. And that's all it takes. That's the problem with these stun strategies, is once you find, the gap in their armor, once you find the weak spot and you exploit it, you just put all your pressure into that one weak point, and then they're just going to collapse, and they don't have the same kind of comeback potential. A deck like Gigavise, if I have a Gigaplant banished, even if I have no other cards, all I need to do is find my way to a DDR and something to discard, and then I can come back into the game just like that. And these low-to-the-ground stun decks, that's just not something that they can do. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a back-and-forth game. I know I'm playing Gigavise, I'm aiming to put up an unbreakable board and just win the game on the spot, but duelists are getting smart, they're getting wise, people have a plan to crack back against it, and fortunately, I adapt, I improvise, I overcome. And I have found that, you can commit, maybe not the strongest board, your opponent is still going to have to commit substantial resources to it. And then if you have a follow-up, you're really entering that grind game. That's what I think is the biggest strength of Gigavise, is it does have this powerful balls-to-the-wall kind of combo, but then it can also play, a more mid-range game where you're just generating advantage constantly off of Gigaplant. And that's really hard to contest. So I do have one more match for you guys against these stun decks, really to drive the point home. I hope you guys don't mind the longer episode. Let me know in the comments, actually. Do you prefer longer games? Do you prefer shorter games? What do you guys think? So our opponent here is on another kind of stun deck. This one looks very competent. He has Reckless Greed in the mix, so he's definitely trying to draw as many cards as possible. And he also has Mask of Darkness, which I think is a fantastic card. Definitely slow. Definitely ultimately not good because it's for these stun archetypes, but I definitely think it is a worthy inclusion if you are going to be so foolish as to play a deck like this. So we are going to start right off with the Gold Sarcophagus for Lone Fire Blossom, and I'm going to pass it right back to him. That's a lot of back row to get through, and we are just going to have to be patient, try and find a sweeper, try and find a chance to really get in. I do think the Gold Sarc for Lone Fire is correct there because I'm not seeing Lone Fire access right away, and I want to be sure I have it. That's going to be the biggest key, especially with multiple extenders like FERT, like Mark DDR. Once I have the Lone Fire going, I feel like I can try and play through a whole bunch of back row. Now, speaking of a whole bunch of back row, he is getting his advantage engine going. He has Deslocuta to get a card back, and he does have Mask of Darkness, so he is going to be recycling these Reckless Greeds. I think Mask of Darkness with Reckless Greed is really, really excellent. It's just this really unstoppable advantage engine, and he's just going to keep drawing cards. We're going to get the Lone Fire Blossom to our hand, but it is not really going to be primed to use yet. We're going to use the Gold Sarc, second one, to find the Giant Trunade, and since we have the fertilizer, I am going to go ahead and see if we can just get through some traps, try and waste some of his resources. And we do summon a Titanial, and I'm just going to let that Titanial stick around. Hopefully we can survive long enough to get Dandelion on the field, and then try and have it live to shut down any Pac-Man monsters that he has, like the Swarm of Scarabs that he just set. So we are going to normal summon that Dandelion, and we're going to go to battle phase. I think about it, but ultimately I decide it's just not worth losing to Mirror Force, so we are going to wait a turn until our Giant Trunade is live. He is going to Deslakuta to draw some more cards, and then fire the Reckless Greed to draw even more cards. So definitely just an unstoppable chain of advantage. And he is then going to set the second swarm of Scarabs. So we're definitely in trouble. He absolutely has access to the Pure Advantage, the PA in Pac-Man. We do get our Giant Trunade, but without missing a beat, he has the Dark Bribe for that. So we are going to go ahead and just try and play into the traps now. Looks like we're not going to get a sweeper, so the name of the game is just going to be try and play through all his traps and out-resource him. You know, we definitely have the potential to do that, but unfortunately for us, those Dandelion tokens are going to be a prime spot to make Needle Sealing live. All his face-down monsters are going to be protected, and we are just going to get absolutely blown out by Needle Sealing. Needle Sealing, folks, is a fantastic card against Gigavise. It's kind of like an extra torrential tribute, except you can use it whenever you want, so that flexibility is going to be really good. We do have a Dust Shoot here, which we are going to use after the Camel draws a card to get rid of the Morphing Jar. If he resolved that, I need all these cards. I can't lose 2 supervised, then I'm definitely out of the game. So I am going to be forced to get rid of that. I see that he has a Lava Golem. I see that he has a lot of very real traps. So I'm definitely feeling a little nervous. Not quite sure how I'm going to get out of this. He's going to put up the Swords of Revealing Light for protection, flip up his monsters, swing in for damage, and then pass it back to us. We draw that Super Solar Nutrient, which really is not going to be a big help. We are going to find the Gigaplant, equip it with a Supervise, and then use its effect, but he is going to just shut that right down with Fiendish Chain. I am going to fire the Mark of the Rose to steal the Mask of Darkness, just to get the Lone Fire Blossom banished, and then I am going to go ahead and fire the DDR to get Lone Fire Blossom back from the Banish Zone, and fire its effect to get a second Lone Fire Blossom, and then to get our Copy Plant. At this time, our opponent is going to allow us to Synchro Summon, so we are going to go ahead and try and make a Black Rose, try and just push him out of the game. I'm thinking, oh, well, you know, maybe he has the Dark Bribe was his protection from heavy, but he does have the Starlight Road. And at this point, we have just used all of our resources just to give our opponent a Stardust Dragon. So that is going to be it for us. We are going to go right to game 2. Now, I think the other thing about stun decks is cards like Trap Stun and Royal Decree exist, and your opponent is going to be able to side into those, which is just going to be so very strong for them. So we are going to set the Dandelion and pass. If he destroys the Dandelion, great. We'll use the Super Solar Nutrient. If not, we'll tribute it for the Gigaplant to still use the Super Solar Nutrient. So we draw into the Hidden Armory, which feels like a fantastic follow-up. Even if he wants to blow us out with a Needle Sealing, we can follow up on the next turn. He hasn't immediately started out super strong, drawing a billion cards. So I'm going to try and strike while the iron is hot. And I do have a Super Solar Nutrient to use. That is going to get Dust Tornadoed. I do have a Supervise to use. That is going to get Dark Bribed. We are going to draw into our Breaker, which is a fantastic side card for these kind of matchups. It outs Royal Oppression. It runs right over Fossil Dyna. Definitely something I think you should consider in your side decks. And we are just going to attack right in with Gigaplant. It is a Mask of Darkness, so he'll get back the Dust Tornado, as that is the only other trap other than Dark Bribe. And Dust Tornado is going to shut down all of the continuous face-up spells that Dark Bribe would do without giving us a card. He's going to draw into Swarm of Scarabs and use that to kill our token before that gets us any more advantage, and then use its effect to set itself. He has not 2, but rather 3 more traps to set, including a Wall of Revealing Light, which I'm sure he's hoping is going to keep the Swarm of Scarabs safe. We are going to normal summon the Breaker, and then just go ahead and fire its effect right away. I think that's a little reckless, folks. I don't know if that's correct. I don't know if that's what I would do, especially because Breaker would have been really nice to hold to use on that Wall of Revealing Light. Anyways, he is going to pass it back to us after paying 3,000 life points and draw into the Reckless Greed, so he is really threatening to get his Advantage Engine online, and it is going to be on us to do something big. Fortunately, we draw something big with that Giant Trunade, so he is going to use the Reckless Greed now, put the Magic Planner into his hand, as well as that Wall and Judgment and Starlight Road, and he's going to draw into a Fossil Dyna. So bad news for us if we let him live, but we are going to work very hard this turn to right away establish a strong board presence. We are going to use our Fertilizer HA combo to bring out Gigaplant, give it Supervise, and summon Titanium from our hand. We know that's a swarm of Scarabs, so we are going to fearlessly attack into it with Breaker, and then swing in for game with Gigaplant and Titanium. So let's see game 3. Again, we have put in decrees, we have put in our breakers, so we have all of our side options live and online. And would you look at that, folks, we draw not 1, but 2 royal decrees. He's going to start off by setting 1 billion cards. Interestingly enough, folks, it looks like he does not have a sweeper defense. So if we had Heavy Storm, we would be feeling pretty good here. But we do have royal decree, which is also just fine, and we are just going to pass. I don't have any combo live. I know I'm not going to get OTK'd, and I don't want to commit the Royal Decrees because I know that he probably has breakers of his own. He might have a swarm of locusts, so I don't think it's going to be worth committing the decrees to the field if I don't have any follow-up. And even if I draw the 1 of Lonefire next turn, that would be live with Supervise right away, but I could still afford to then wait a turn. And look at this, I've actually drawn Raigeki Break, which I left into out Floodgates if I didn't see Decree, and flipping a Decree would make Raigeki Break a dead draw. So we are going to set the Raigeki Break, and that is actually going to eat a Dust Tornado, which is just fantastic for us because Dust Tornado would have been already on the field, so we would not have been able to shut it down with Decree. In fact, it would have shut down Decree. He could have just chained it. So I activate Decree. He chains Dust Tornado. Then I would have lost my Decree. That would have been real bad for us. He's going to Mask of Darkness to get that Reckless Greed back. So now his advantage engine is definitely online. And it is time for us to make our move, which we are going to be able to do because we drew the Lonefire Blossom. So now I'm going to set 3 cards, just trying to get everything on the field while I can. Make sure that even if he has something like that, ooh, look at that, he drew Mystical Space Typhoon, we are still going to get that Decree to stick. So he's going to swing in for 900 damage, continuing to try and chip away at us. That's the other thing with these stun decks that I think just feels terrible is you're getting into a position like this where, okay, it feels like I'm in the driver's seat. I feel like I have control of the board, I have control of the game. And what are you able to do with that board control, with that control of the game state? You're able to poke for 900 points of damage. I don't know about you folks, but me personally, if I have control of the board state, you know what I want to do? I want to win the duel, dog. I want to close out the match. And we are going to try and do just that. We'll flip the Decree in end phase. And it looks like he's going to let it stick. So I am feeling just great. I'm going to fire the Lonefire Blossom, tribute it with its effect. And he is going to flip the Royal Oppression to try and negate the Lonefire Blossom, chaining Mystical Space Typhoon to get Decree off the field. And fortunately for us, we have the second Decree, which is just, as you can see, going to shut him out of the game entirely. So we are going to Lonefire for Gigaplant, equip Gigaplant with Supervise, and at this point he is just going to draw a card and realize that he has lost this match. We had a variety of options here, honestly. I think I just would have tried to go really wide with a Stardust Dragon to lock down that Decree from like a breaker or anything, and then just push in for game over a few turns. You could also argue that maybe Stardust Dragon would be correct there, but since we didn't have a line for GG immediately off of Stardust, I don't want to give him the opportunity to set any more traps. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know this was a lot longer of a video than normal, but I really wanted to drive my point home that these stun decks, even when they are, doing what they want to do, they're getting their engine online, they're drawing lots of cards. There's just too many answers that exist. Giant Trunade, Heavy Storm, Royal Decree, Trap Stun, a well-placed MST, a well-placed Twister, a well-placed Breaker. There's just too many answers. A hand that just has extenders, more extenders than they have traps for also, even without a powerful sweeper. There's just too many answers for these stun decks that high ceiling decks have, and ultimately they are just never going to be the best strategy. They might win a game here and there, and I'm not knocking you. If you think stun is fun, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game. We play games to have fun. By all means, play what you think is most fun, but I really want to silence any notion that stun is a good or even viable strategy. The history of Yu-Gi-Oh! You can look at every format. Stun decks exist, and they're never the best deck. Spellbook Dragon Ruler format, Dragon Rulers was an active high ceiling deck that was trying to win the game. Spellbooks, it did have a card like Judgment, which was a huge advantage generation, but its gameplay was kind of just, okay, we have Fate every turn, we're locking you down with Jowgen. And so it was almost, most similar to Pac-Man, where it's not really trying to do anything huge. It's just trying to have lots of card advantage and stop you from winning. But in anything, it's always going to be better to try and win yourself than stop your opponent from winning. So I hope these duels were instructive. I hope you learned something. I hope you have a better knowledge of Yu-Gi-Oh! After watching this video. I hope you're excited to get out there and curb stomp some filthy stun players if you are on a high ceiling competent deck like Gigavise. If you're a stun player, I hope maybe you repent and consider the error of your ways. Or maybe you see what I'm doing here and you think I'm wrong and you think you can innovate stun to stomp Gigavise, in which case, I would encourage you to try your best. I think the Gigavise deck only came about because some people saw that the general ideas in the metagame were wrong. I spent so much time trying to say Gigavise is the best deck of the format, and so many people for so long told me, I don't think so. I don't know about that. And look where we are now, folks. So anyways, this has been Dionysus, a.k.a. Young Puds, bringing you guys a very long bit of shameless hype beast Gigavise content. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a comment with what you would like to see me face off against next, whether it's a deck, whether it is a card, whether it is a concept. We did the DD Crow video yesterday. That was kind of Gigavise versus one card. This is, Gigavise versus stun as a concept. So definitely get creative with your suggestions, anything you'd like to see. I'm certain I can dig up a replay or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or even more to make another video. Subscribe if you haven't already. I love to see that number go up. It really means a lot to me and encourages me to keep bringing you guys the Shameless Hype Beast Gigavise content. Other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. If you're playing in any of the big tournaments, RBET or the online World Championship, Edison World Qualifier thing, whatever it is, I hope you guys do well in that. I hope you don't brick. I hope you draw well. I hope you make smart plays. And other than that, have a great weekend, and I'll see you tomorrow with more shameless, hype beast, Gigavise content.